Hey everyone, thanks for coming back and joining me on the channel here at HZad Education. My name is Scott, and as you are preparing for the PTE Core exam, it's really important that you know the exact format and where to focus your energy before you take the test. So that's exactly what we'll do today. We're starting from booking your test online all the way to receiving your results. I'll give you the most amount of information so that you can feel comfortable going into the exam. You can spend your time wisely by preparing for the most difficult sections, and you'll also know exactly how to navigate the test when you arrive on test day. The reason so many people are now taking the PTE Core exam is because Canada has included it in the PR and Work Permit program. So it's essential that you get a high mark. Most industries are looking for a CLB score of 7, but we'll take a look at that later in the video. I'll explain what industries are looking for what marks and how to achieve it. It's a 2-hour exam with no breaks, so when you do enter the examination center, make sure that you are comfortable and ready to go. It is online, but you are going to the examination center and you'll take it on their computer using their software and headset. All of the examination centers are quite small, so they have around 10 desks and 10 private rooms for every center. Some of them are slightly larger, and Toronto and Vancouver have multiple exam centers, but other cities, you're lucky to find 1 or 2 exam center. There's going to be 19 tasks in total, and that covers the reading and writing, which is one section, speaking and listening. They put these two together, reading and writing, but as we are going to learn today, there are marks that get distributed in the entire exam. For example, in the reading and writing, there is also listening sections. So you're always being examined on all parts of your English proficiency. Now, in 2025, they started using more AI algorithms to assess your score. This does have some advantages. Like, for example, they now have been trained with more database to assess your pronunciation. This wide range of database made the AI algorithm able to understand different accents more clearly. So they're still going to assess your fluency and the clarity of your voice. But if you have a very strong accent, 2025 will be your best year to take the exam. Now let's talk about the price of the exam because it's not exactly cheap. In 2025, it is 350 Canadian for the PTE Academic and for the PTE Core. Same price, the exams are similar, but they have different purposes. Today, we're focusing on the PTE Core. So the reason it's expensive is because it does give you a ticket or an entryway into your Canadian immigration or PR status. And additionally, they have to set up the examination centers, etc., etc. But because of this price, we really don't want people taking the exam multiple times. It can empty your pockets if you have to do it twice or 3 times to get your desired CLB. So the purpose of our channel is to help people achieve their score the first time they take the exam. Now, for the Federal Skilled Trade Program, so the TP, they require a minimum CLB of 5, which is very doable. But for the Federal Skilled Workers Program, which is probably the most common one, they require a 7 CLB. So if you're not familiar with what your CLB score would look like, well, take a look at this table. It's a comparison of other English levels compared to your CLB. Do keep in mind that the CLB gets calculated based on all areas, the speaking, reading, writing, and listening section. So if you are lacking in one area, like the listening, and it's far worse than your other English levels, well, you would really need to focus heavily on listening or on your weakest area because it's an accumulative score. It's all combined together, and then you get 1 CLB score that then goes towards your workers program or to immigration. So make sure that all areas are equal, or at least you can compensate for weaker areas by doing very well on your strong strength area. There are test centers everywhere in Canada, all major cities. But take a look at the Pearson PTE website. You're going to find a lot of different destinations that you can go, and the hope is that you don't have to travel too far. If you are in a rural city, you may have to drive an hour or 2 hours to get to one of the test centers. But like I said before, Toronto and Vancouver, they have multiple locations, especially in the greater area. You'll be able to find something nearby. Once you have booked your test and you arrive at the test center on test day, there's a few things that you really do need to know. So they're going to check your ID, which means you have to have the exact ID that you registered with. They have a very high level of security just to avoid people from cheating or using wrong, false information. So make sure that you have your passport. That would be the best ID that you can bring. They're going to take a photo of you for records and a digital signature. As well, they're also going to scan the palm of your hand. So because of this, it's important that you arrive 30 minutes early, at least, a minimum of 30 minutes. Just like we talked about the price a few minutes ago, you don't want to be doing this twice. And if you arrive late due to traffic, bad weather, snowstorm, it's going to affect your test and you'll have to rebook. So this takes about 30 minutes. Again, the test centers aren't very large, so you'll be one of 10 or 15 people taking the test. You're going to get set up with the examiner. They'll put you in a booth where it's a fairly quiet area. The headset is provided by the examination center, so you don't need to worry about bringing your own headset. But it is important that you check that headset at the very beginning. So a screen will pop up like this once you get logged in, and that's where you get to check to make sure that it's working. You're going to check the microphone as well as the listening. Now, if this doesn't work for whatever reason, you get to ask questions before the actual exam begins. So check your microphone and ask any remaining questions. All right, let's get into the actual test and the exam so you know what to prepare for and what the format looks like. The very first question is not marked. It's a personal introduction. This will pop up on the screen and it will ask you to introduce yourself. The reason for this is to get you warmed up to have a final minute of debriefing before you get into the exam. It's really good for you as the test taker to take this opportunity to be flexing your English skills. Try to speak as fluently and as comfortably as you can. So it's all recorded, but it doesn't contribute to your score. If you mess up here, well, try to just brush it off and keep going. In the next part is your speaking and writing section. Remember, these two skills get combined. They're pushed together. However, they do still separate them slightly. For example, you'll start with all the speaking questions, and then the last two tasks is the writing section. But there are some areas that overlap with skills. Then we have reading and listening. Listening tends to be the most challenging part, and the last few questions are worth a lot of marks. So it's really important that you pace yourself throughout the exam. Arrive with a full belly so you're not hungry, you've had your coffee, you're ready to go, and hopefully you've used the bathroom before entering the exam. Because the listening section can be hard and we don't want to be running out of energy at that last section. Moving on to the speaking section. So you've done your personal introduction and now you're really into the exam. There are 5 tasks in the speaking section, but it does overlap a little bit. For example, you will get a mark for reading in the reading aloud section, as well as answer a short question. So here, most of your marks come from speaking. Read aloud has 6 to 7 number of questions, and repeat the sentence has the most, so 10 to 12. All of these areas are very important, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about where I want you to focus the most of your attention on. So in the read aloud section, it's really not the most important section, although there is quite a lot. Your pronunciation is important, however, it's not as important as your fluency. Try to avoid any type of hesitation or pausing for too long, something that is an unnatural pause. Okay, but more importantly is the repeat a sentence. When you're doing the repeat a sentence, fluency, of course, is important, but remaining all of the content words is also important. So you're going to listen to it and then repeat as close as possible as you can. While you are listening, keep repeating the sentence in your head. So you're going to hear about 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds worth of an audio. And the best trick is to just repeat that in your head before you start speaking out loud. Content words are important. So if you miss prepositions or articles, that is less crucial than missing a key word, such as nouns. So people, places, even numbers can be very important. For describe an image, I want you to remember that a computer is still calculating your score. So your accuracy of the image is less crucial than the fluency of your speech. Generally, they're going to use a graph or some type of statistic. So if it has any text on the screen, you can start repeating that to the computer. So it might have a title. It might also display something on the x-axis or the y-axis of the graph. So sometimes it looks like that, and we have a title and information on both sides. Try to describe that in the first few seconds of your speech. And you might say that the graph is increasing or the numbers rose in this year or that year. But again, the computer doesn't exactly know if your information is 100% accurate. The most important thing is that you're staying true to your fluency and you're using vocabulary that is appropriate for the graph. For both respond to a situation and answer a short question, you do have to have some general knowledge of these questions. And so people can lose marks here because they just haven't thought about this topic or this question before. So for respond to a situation, repeat key phrases. So if you hear a key phrase once or twice, repeat that in your answer. That'll demonstrate at least that you know how to talk about the subject, or it seems like you can talk about the subject. Your grammar is important here, but try not to stop speaking for more than a few seconds. If you're pausing too much, it shows that you're not able to react in English in an appropriate amount of time. So the speed at which you're speaking at and the continuous speech is important. When you are answering a short question, you are going to get 5 to 6 questions based on general knowledge. The exam is not trying to trick you. It's not a school exam. They use topics that are very appropriate of all people and all ages. When you're answering the short question, try to speak for about 20 to 30 seconds for each. In this section, you are also getting marks for your listening because it is part of the listening audio. So you'll listen to a short audio that is just a few seconds long, and then you will answer it. So you are getting marks in multiple areas here. All right, now that we're done with the speaking section, you've gone through all 5 of the tasks. We're going to start next on writing. Technically, it's all considered one section, speaking and writing. However, the questions are kind of divided, and so I feel like it's 2 different sections, but you don't get a break in between. For summarize a written text, you will get a passage or 2 passages of about 300 words. You need to read this and then summarize it in your own words. Now, on our channel, we've done a few different videos about how to use templates for summarize a written text, and yes, you still can use very general templates. So just go check out on the channel, you'll find a video about summarize a written text. We also have dozens of other videos about other content, So if you're looking to practice one specific area on the PTE Core exam, just go ahead, go to the channel, you'll find videos for it, definitely. In the 300 words, you're going to summarize in 10 minutes. So it's really not a lot of time, but it's just enough to have a template where you can plug and play information. So you can have your introduction sentence, your main idea, your conclusion sentence. It's not very long. For writing an email, you're going to get 2 of 3 of them, and each email will take 9 minutes total to write. Now, you're getting marked on many different things here, but most importantly is answering the question. So it's first going to give you a prompt at the top, and then it'll give you 3 sub-prompts. So some type of question or some type of work email related, and it will give you 3 different prompts, and it's very important that you answer all 3 of these. Just for simplicity and to make sure that you answer them, I always advise students to do it in the same order that it's presented. So you'll answer point number 1, point number 2, and point number 3 last. There are some marks that are given for email conventions. And basically what that means is that your email looks like a standard one with a dear or to whom it may concern, 2 to 3 body paragraphs, and then a sign-off with your name as well. This email convention is something that we must do, and it accounts for 2 marks. So you want to make sure that you do it because it's very simple, but some people do forget. You can only write a maximum of 120 words. The minimum is 50 words, but you won't be able to answer all 3 points in just 50 words. So we're generally around 100 words in this email. And again, you have 2 to 3 of them, so you're writing up to probably 350 words in just this section if you have 3 emails. Okay, that's all for the writing section. Now let's take a look at the next task. Reading is one of the trickiest areas in the PTE Core exam, and I'll tell you why. Reading comes up in almost every section of the exam. Of course, there are questions that are directly in the reading section, like multiple choice single answer, multiple choice multiple answer, reorder the paragraph, fill in the blanks, and fill in the blanks with the reading writing. That accounts for 50% of your reading score. Only 50%. The other 50 come from outside of your reading section. That's because we need to demonstrate coherence in our reading. We have good understanding of every question, what it's asking us, and we're able to answer either in a written response, a spoken response, or just those 2. So that's why we also practice reading in speaking, read aloud. In the writing section, we have summarize a written text, and in the listening section, we have highlight an incorrect answer. This accounts for the other 50%. Now, if you're finding any of this information helpful, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. That way, every time we post a video, you can stay updated and you'll get more information about the PTE Core exam so that you don't waste money taking it twice, 3 times, or even more. Now, it's really advisable to practice reading every day, at least 20 minutes every day. Reading is not something that we can quickly give you a template for. Although templates are being used less and less in 2025, there still are ways that we can answer a question where we guarantee to get some high marks. And we've made a lot of videos about vague templates we can use. Ones that guarantee we have introduction sentences, we have our complex clause, etc. However, for the reading section, it's just something that you need to be familiar with in order to boost your score. So definitely practice reading every day. In total, it's about 38 minutes maximum, depends on the number of questions. But we have some areas that are worth a lot, like reading and writing. And we have some areas that are worth almost nothing, like multiple choice, single answer, multiple choice, multiple answer. So for this reason, we really need to strategize in the reading section. You're going to focus most of your attention on the high mark areas, reading and writing, and drag and drop. And reorder the paragraph. That one has 2 to 3 marks, so it's a bit higher. We're going to give very little attention, only about 30 seconds of our time, to each of the multiple choice, multiple answer or single answer. No more than 30 seconds. Why? Because if you get it wrong, well, you're only losing 1 mark. However, if you get it right, you're just getting 1 right mark. But we really need to give ourselves more time for the reading drag and drop and for the reading and writing blanks. Now for reading and writing with blanks, you'll have a passage come up on your screen. It's not very long, it's a couple sentences. And then there will be about 4 to 5 drop downs, which each one contains about 4 drop downs or 4 options. For this, the best strategy is to work on eliminating incorrect answers. So if you have 4, option A, B, C, D, you can get it down to about 2 options, and then you have a 50% chance of getting it right. The next thing you're going to focus on is grammatical cues. So we're looking for verbs in the continuous tense. If there is an article before the drop down, like a or an, that will tell you if the next word should have a vowel sound. Or you're also going to look for past tense verbs, for example. Now, multiple choice single answer and multiple answer, I'm not going to spend too much time discussing them because they are only worth 1 to 2 marks. However, both of them, you'll get a passage, read the passage. For the multiple answer, you just have to select, usually it's about 3, but it can change for every exam. So you'll select the correct answers. And you do get a -1 mark for an incorrect answer on this one. So let's say, for example, you got 3 answers correct and 1 incorrect. Well, you would still lose -1 point because of that incorrect answer. Okay, now I'm just clearing my screen so we have more time to talk about reordering the paragraph. Reordering the paragraph is kind of interesting with its strategy and how you gain marks here. So you're going to get many different sentences. It's 4 to 5 different sentences, and they're in a jumbled order. You have to drag them into the correct order depending on the paragraph. So you're looking for an independent clause. Find one sentence that stands alone. It's an independent sentence, and work around that one. The reason I say that is because you're actually getting marked on combination of 2 sentences together. So if you completely get all of them wrong, you're not going to get any marks, of course. But if you get some of them wrong, you're still only getting marks for the combination of 2 of them together. So let's say A and B, those 2 sentences go together, then you would get a mark for both of them. Reading blanks, drag and drop, this is very similar to the very first one, however you have more options. So you'll have 4 to 5 blanks and about 7 or 8, or double the amount of questions, options down below. So very similar, just more options. Okay, that's all for the reading section. A maximum of 38 minutes. Let's move on to the very last part, the listening section of the exam. So the listening section is kind of broken into 2 different parts. First, it's the summarize the spoken text. You have 8 minutes for each of these. So 1 to 2 questions and 8 minutes to summarize the spoken text. For this part, it is very important that you listen carefully. But when you are listening, you should be repeating that sentence in your mind constantly, because you are then going to summarize it directly as the audio finishes. You can't listen to the audio twice, so if you miss key pieces of information, then you won't get full marks. So listen to the audio, pick up details, strong details, key pieces of information, and then you're going to summarize that right after. It contributes to both your writing and your listening. So here, you only need to write about 40 to 50 words. It's not that much. And the audio is short. It's a minute and a half, 90 seconds for the audio. Then we go into the rest of them, which is multiple choice, multiple answers, single answer, fill in the blanks, etc. The rest of it, you get a total of 19 minutes. So 13 to 19 minutes in total for these areas in the listening section. For the fill in the blanks section, you'll have about 2 to 3 fill in the blanks, and each one contains about 4 to 5 questions. So for the fill in the blanks, you will see a transcript of the audio on the screen, and they have blanks. That's why it's a fill in the blank. Then you're listening to the audio, and they're going to insert this word, or they will say the word, and you need to write it. As you are doing this, you should be making an assumption about what the word will be. Often in the exam, we'll see that they do phrases or noun phrases, noun pairs. So before we even hear the audio, you can make an assumption about what the word will be. And then once you hear the audio, you're basically just confirming your idea or checking it. Now, key information or good piece of advice is if you miss the first one, don't start thinking about it. Just move on and try to get the next ones. So if you miss an answer, keep going. Make sure to get the next ones. That brings me down to highlight an incorrect word because it's a little bit of the same skill. When we're listening to highlight the incorrect word, you're going to get another transcript, and the transcript is complete. But as we listen to the audio, there will be some words that don't directly follow the transcript. So your ears and your eyes must be moving at the same time. You are reading it exactly as you are listening, and you're trying to listen for words that don't match up with the transcript, and then you will highlight it. So here, your listening skills have to be very sharp, and you have to be thinking in an active state, actively listening. Now, write from dictation is where you get the highest amount of marks for the listening section, and it's also the very last thing that you do in the exam. Very important that you stay fresh, stay on the ball, and pay attention very carefully. So you're going to listen to the audio and then write down exactly what you hear. Now, as you are repeating the sentence in your head, one of the good strategies I've heard and that we've used is to write down initials of a sentence. So let's say, for example, the sentence is global warming has made a big effect. So I would say global warming has made a big effect. So I'm just writing down the initials and I'm saying that in my head at the same time. Then when I go to write it down, I know I've marked every word because I can remember global warming has made a big effect. You won't miss any words if you write down just the first letter on your pen and paper before you write it on the computer. Do take notes in the last section, writing from dictation. Okay, and once you've done this, you're totally finished the exam. Hopefully you've done well. But what happens when you want to get your results? Well, it's going to take the examination center anywhere from 48 hours. Generally, it's 48 hours. Most of our students get it in 2 days. However, it can take up to 5 days if they need to cross-examine it some more. Very rarely does this happen. Almost all of our students get it in 2 days. What you're going to do is go onto the Pearson website, just like where you took the exam and where you booked the exam, and you'll download your digital results. But what's really handy is that directly on the website, you can send your results to IRCC, so for the Canadian Immigration. You don't need to print anything, and in fact, they stopped printing copies. They've stopped sending hard copies. Everything's just done digitally. So go ahead, download them, or send it directly to your school, your institution, or for immigration. It'll also tell you your CLB directly on the page, so you'll know if you need to take the exam again or if you passed with flying colors. So from booking your exam online to getting your results a few days later, That is the complete start to finish for the PTE Core exam. It's really important to manage your time effectively and pay close attention to the marks that are the highest. A lot of them you'll see like we did today. You don't need to focus on too much because it might just waste your time, like multiple choice, multiple answer. Do just focus on the ones that give you the most marks. But if you are taking the exam soon and you want to work with a teacher, not just a computer or not just taking tests online, get in touch with us at HZad Education so that we can connect you with our teachers and will help you to get the CLB that you need for immigration or for education or any other purpose. Thanks for following along in today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.